And steel and wood and wire, they can change two things to one. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding.
It was very kind to everyone.
They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than all.
Is there a topic for this meeting?
There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide.
Well, welcome to Bridges Programming, where we try to bridge the gaps so those voids don't happen.
Well, so that there's more understanding
between
all kinds of occupations, cultures,
religions, races,
right,
and economic structures. Hello, my name is Jeff Beller. We have Susan Coleman to my right, Brian Alexander to my left, and we have Dennis Carius on the phone, and he's part of our programming. And Susan actually set this program up today.
And Brian is, he's described himself as an observer, but he may make comments now and then.
Right.
So he's just observing what we're doing and trying to figure out what's up.
So then you heard Bill Staines, Bridges Programming, with permission to use his stuff occasionally, a little bit at a time. And I want to thank him. Bridges Programming is a great song for bridges. And then toward the end of the song, he says we have to build a bridge of music, and we have to build a bridge to get all human beings together.
Actually, music is the universal language.
Right.
So definitely got a point there.
So I love Bill's work. He does a very good job putting his words to music. So anyway, if you could pass me that pillow so I can put my mouse on that, Brian, and it's a little tight here, but we'll do that. Yeah.
Don't pull any plugs out.
Pull any wires out here. Good. Okay. And Dennis, you can say hello. Just make sure you're there and working.
Dennis, are you working?
Oh yes, I'm here and I'm working.
Okay. Now the next thing is, if anybody who's hearing us now live, but they want to go and watch us, if they want to see our Maya Puss, you can go to YouTube, Bridges Programming, those 4 words, and click on it, and it'll be a live show right now. You could get a hold of us, I think, through Skype on Bridges Programming 1, and I think we can get you on the air. I'm not sure how to do that, but we're learning. And then there's also, of course, Google Hangouts on Air, which is another way to get out there. So these are some of the things we can deal with. So Dennis, let me know when you get online to see if you can see us and like that, okay? And then you may be able to actually listen to us with your phone on mute and hear us real time. I'm not sure, but I think that may work. You may not have the delay. Now, Susan set this program up, and it says,
it's all my fault.
Time is your life.
The time of your life, and time is your life.
Time is your life. And I'm actually showing
all those thoughts.
So then I'm actually trying to work. I think we got this almost under control. This Hangouts on Air now, so we can zoom in and out and show different sites, and the lighting is pretty good, and the voice is much better than it was, and we're not echoing it at all. So those are good things. Now that we got the technical stuff out of the way, now let's get to the important stuff, the meat of why we're doing this, the impetus behind the programming. Why do we want to talk to you all guys on as many people as we can. And we're up to about 3,500 people now. And we need to get everybody to understand that everybody knows there's something wrong with our world economic system. We're killing people every day of our lives and we don't want to do that. Most people don't want to do that.
Well, because of the economics and the demands of economics. And some countries are much more damaging in this way than others. The United States, for one, with the amount of material
the western part
that
of the
we
world,
absorb.
The western part of the world is very much
and discard constantly natural resources. And we have we actually have, congratulations, the United States, the largest dump site in the world.
Right.
And
that's
Staten Island.
Staten Island.
Right. And from space, that is one of the landmarks, one of the wonderful landmarks that is seen from space.
So when you look down at the planet, you see Staten Island's landfill, the largest landfill in the world, which
is sort of an indicator of the attitude in this country. I think it's a big indicator.
So I'm going to see if this is going to work.
Okay, so today the idea was to discuss time and something about time. There's lots of things about time.
I want to ask Dennis a question.
Okay, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis, what is time?
What is time? T-I-M-E.
Yes, time.
Wow.
We've had discussions with you about time.
What is time?
Am I in college or in grade school?
No, you are a 70-year-old, well, close to that, adult.
With lots of experience about
and
time.
Now you should tell me what time is about. Now time.
But you're right. When we first start school, Dennis, they're getting you used to the ordering of time. The bell rings. Okay, it's time for you to go to another class.
Like
the
Pablo's
bell rings.
dog.
It's time for school to be over.
It's like Pablo's dog.
So you're getting used to time, your physical participation in the physical world is being portioned off into time segments with bells in between.
But I want Dennis's opinion. What is time?
Once you leave school, what do you make of all that?
What is time to you, Dennis?
Wow, so you're saying not just like years or months or weeks, but you're even saying like hours or minutes or even like seconds.
I'm just asking you
any
what do you
computation.
think? What is your opinion of time? What does it mean to you?
Wait 5 seconds.
Then I have to wait. So if I wait 5 seconds for you to think of something, what have we just done?
You've used up 5 of our seconds in our lives.
That'll never ever
we'll never get
come
them
back
again, Dennis.
So what is time?
We're waiting for your answer.
What is time, Dennis?
Well, I'm just trying to explain what time is. If I say wait 5 seconds, I think all of us all agree on how long we have to wait, right?
But what does it mean? I mean,
what is time?
We know the count, but what does it mean physically?
What has passed as that count goes off? What is passed by?
Right. Okay, I understand. So if we talk about what a year is, it's all based on how long it takes for the Earth to go around the sun.
Actually, that's pretty.
Well, that's a very, very large picture.
That's pretty.
That's the cosmic picture.
Okay, I'm going to give
let's look at the individual picture.
What does actual time mean
to a person,
to a human being,
to each individual?
How long we can stay on this planet?
That's right.
How long we live in nature.
It's the computing of our actual life.
And every time
our finite life.
Every time a second goes by or a minute goes by, we're 1 second closer to our death.
Well, to the end of our life.
To the end of our life. You want to be nice about it.
No, I mean, why should we make it? I mean, that's a cycle,
It's a cycle. Right? We're going to be dead.
And that's something else.
We may be dead at 80 or 70 or 60 or even 40.
I know you have a thing about that.
But the reality is that we are that much closer to the end of our life. So time is a passing of life. And if you work a job and you have to work 40 hours a week to pay off a loan because of...
Or just to get food.
Or just to get food,
or
just to stay alive.
Right.
These are your life cycle that you're using up to get your basic needs met. And if you have an artificial number on that, where you have to work even more, let's say to pay off a student loan or get a PhD, please help donate, then that's what a PhD stands for all around the world. People don't realize that. They think it stands for something important, but it means please help donate. Donate to the
donuts
or donut
would be good,
to. I mean, you go to a cop and says, "Please help donut." I mean, that's. But I mean, this is a PhD is please help donate, and we can talk about that and donate to your cause or donate to the college,
research or whatever.
Donate. Please help donate. That's what a PhD stands for. But it costs you a small fortune in your lifetime to work to pay it back now, or it should not. And that's the point. So Susan's got some notes.
I mean, the point could be made that time and the time of each person's life is the most valuable thing to them.
Right.
Right. Because that represents your life passing along, and we're committing an hour today to speaking to whoever will listen to us because we think we have something to say, a few things to say, and we keep coming up with ideas and we want to add them to the conversation. So we feel like using this time in this way is a good thing,
right.
in our lives to do that. So let's get on. What do you use your time for?
Some people like to play golf.
And maybe that's something that is directed to them by culture, and this is the acceptable way to use your free time. Since we don't have much of it, we better consult with the experts about how we should use it when we've got it. So what's acceptable. So we're trained from the very beginning what's acceptable. When the bell rings, you don't stay in the class anymore and sit in the chair and watch everybody leave and then you're sitting there. You have to go with them. So right away, right at the very beginning, we know that that something's expected of us as far as our time, and that there are the proper quote unquote ways to use your time and the ones that are frowned upon. And I want to quote something from John Lennon from his song Working Class Hero. He said,
I want to bring Dennis into it.
But may I quote this and then you can bring Dennis in?
Do you know who John Lennon is, Dennis?
Oh, okay.
Well, I definitely heard the name John Lennon, yes.
And then how about you, Brian? You know?
I do know who he is.
Okay, well, he wrote a song, and the song is
called Working Class Hero.
So you can look
and
that up.
one of the lines in it says, as soon as you're born, they make you feel small by giving you no time instead of it all.
Amazing.
So, it's profound. So, I mean, once we enter the economics of our time and choose our work, and if we can get a job, or what we're going to do to survive, we're selling our time, we're selling our life
right,
in order to live,
and
not having quote the time of our life, so to speak, but we're selling our life. And so how is that different from we're doing it voluntarily supposedly, but actually coerced. We're coerced into a system because we're born into it, an economic system that demands certain behaviors. And so how is this different, that us selling our time, us selling our lives, than when people were coerced to come to this country to be slaves, and they were sold, literally sold like animals? How is this different? We had a discussion, Dennis, with a program several weeks ago, maybe a month ago, about slavery, and and you were saying, you know, how horrible that was, you know, but that's still going on. We're still in slavery, but now it looks like it's voluntary, but it's coerced still, because the system of economics demands slavery of most of the people that participate in it, the majority of people. You know, we make choices, supposedly voluntary choices of, you know, what our life's work will be. You know, there you go. You've got a term, life's work. You know,
how are you going to make a living?
Yes, and it implies, you know, you've got to do that in order to live, and then you've got a certain period that this is going to encompass here in the United States. You know, you're allowed to retire around 63, 65. They're trying to bump that
unless you're very wealthy, you never have to work a day in your life.
Well, that's the other side, but that's the minority. And they live off, of course, the labor of other people. But, you know, once you get to that age, you know, I'm in it now, I mean, I can feel it, you know, that, you know, that's very clever of the statistics to say, okay, this is when, you know, we'll let you take your chains off, you know, we'll take the collar off of your neck. Because at that point in your life, all of your faculties are starting to decrease. and you know, oh,
that's why it's so hard to get a job when you're over 65. But so I want to go out and get a job, and you feel good, but nobody will hire you because, you know, you
I mean, you have to laugh.
Fast, you know,
you have to laugh because
some people can't.
Otherwise, you know, you'd be really
annoyed. If you're doing a paperwork job and your faculties are in good shape,
you can keep doing that for another 10 years or more. But somebody who's had to do hard labor and, you know, your body falls apart. You know, your hips go, your knees go, your arms go, you know, you can't do it much longer.
I want to check with Dennis again. Dennis,
so they know when we wear out.
Are you wearing out?
They know when the slaves wear out. And they say, okay.
Dennis, are you wearing out like the rest of us or what?
No, Dennis is immortal. Dennis won't wear out.
I like that. I read the Bible.
Not immoral, immortal.
Are you immoral? Are you immoral or immortal?
Oh, I like immortal better.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, but you're not immoral. Are you sure? You do realize you're killing people every day, so you don't mean to, but you're still pretty much.
But if you did it with knowledge and with a foresight,
right.
then it would
be immoral. You're not doing it morally. You're doing it because you have no choice. But you are not. And you're not really immortal. You're going to die like most people, with some form between 60 and 90. So you know that's about 80 or 75 or something like that.
So how do we get into this?
Okay, now my question to you is, Dennis.
And how do we get out of it?
What are we going to do about all this stuff?
Okay, I have an answer.
Oh, good.
I think we should reform things if they ever get dysfunctional.
Well, but aren't they dysfunctional now?
If ever?
Yeah.
Is ever here now?
Yes, you're right. They are.
Okay, now how do you want to reform them?
Wow. Well, I think for one thing, you mentioned something called the HREM, where everybody should have their, you know, minimum needs of food, shelter, and education in this world.
So it stands for Human Renewable Energy Measure. And it just came up on our screen, so your segue was perfect. Are you online yet? Can you see us?
How did you do that, Dennis?
Yes. You don't have to wave to me, but yes, I can see you. Yes.
Do you see Brian next to me over here?
Oh, yeah. I want to say hi, Brian.
Hello, Dennis.
So, and then once we get this set up, we'll have you on real time. Now, it's interesting that you can hear me real time on the phone, but you don't hear me real time on the air, but that's close enough. Okay, well, that's, let me ask you a question. Am I flashing with like the camera's going blank every so often? Does it look like the camera's not doing well?
That's just...
I did not see that happening.
Okay, because that I think that's my internet connection. I have a very slow internet connection. And that just blanked again, so.
I didn't see it. I turned my head.
It just flashes. It's either it's not the camera, but it could be the wiring, or it could be the, but I have a feeling.
Oh, there, so.
Yeah, so I don't know where that's happening on air, but I don't think that would happen if you had a higher speed internet.
The computer blinked.
The computer blinks, but it's still pretty. But it's still.
Oh boy, we really
No,
are on the very edge of
now it may be
the internet.
It may be if I go to a different camera, this won't happen.
It could be the camera.
So I mean, we've had this problem before. My mouse.
So how do we want to know?
Very quick black, like, you know, just very quick it goes black, but that's
Right.
very quick.
Now on this camera,
yeah.
I don't
So
think
it
it'll
is
do it. So I think it's the length of the wire we have for that. And I think I had this problem in a different we tried doing something else on Skype and it didn't quite work.
Well,
So
let's use that camera.
Okay, we'll just do close-ups
Shorter
every so
one.
often. And I'll get a better.
Nobody
wire.
really cares what we look like.
Okay, here's the deal though. The goal is to, as you mentioned, the HREM, THEHREM. It stands for Human Renewable Energy Measure. And that's why we're doing these programs, that every human being should have their basic needs met for about an hour worth of their lifetime work a day. And that way nobody gets killed and nobody kills one another. And we share our technology, we share our thoughts and help humanity instead of fighting with one another. And that's what the Pope is saying. That's what Buckminster Fuller was saying. That's what Gandhi said. That's what Sir Thomas More said from Utopia before he had his head chopped off by the king.
That sort of silences you.
That sort of makes you quiet, but at least he got Utopia out
Before that.
Before that, and then and this conversation has been going on since you know,
a long time.
Well, it's been going on since civilization, since
I want to give a little historical context to this. And of course, there's time and space, the Einstein quantum physics notion, but that's too
esoteric.
Right? We don't have to deal with that. But the concept of Western civilization uses, America in particular, the Western, what we call the first world of the West. That concept of time developed in the 1800s in the Industrial Revolution, where they started commodifying and measuring and allocating resources based on time. There's a couple of interesting books I'll recommend to whomever. Lewis Mumford, he talks about the clock and how the clock literally has come to determine how we live. We used to live freely. We didn't worry about it. We didn't know what a clock was. We knew what time is it? It's morning. It's the afternoon. It's spring. But now we get down to almost to, well, it has to be within a minute. And then when it's something.
Well, the nanosecond.
And that, exactly. And now we can do it
But the reality is that clock was developed. The clock that was developed
to make economics more efficient.
To make economics more efficient.
Yeah, right. And more profitable.
And exactly.
The more you can control the time of people, you know, bells.
That's
clocks,
why in school,
whatever.
when the bell goes off, time to get to your next job.
Yeah.
Time to have dinner, like Pavlov's dog.
Exactly, but that's not natural. That's the way we, Western civilization, has come to view time and use time. Time uses us.
Very good
so
point.
Lewis Mumford is one person I recommend you read. And also there's another book called The Geography of Time. I don't recall the author, wish I did. But he talks about around the world how different people handle time. As I said, now it's 10:24.
In Eastern Standard Time.
In Jamaica, it'd be morning. If I was in some countries, or places in the world, and some places in history, it's spring.
Now, the reason for the time factor is because we had to get ships into port at a very specific time, so they knew when to go to work.
So they knew when to unload the ships and then move everything out to be sold. Before it went bad.
Now everything is, now you've heard of the word England, right?
The country?
Country.
Yes.
And before that, they were called Great Britain. And before that, they were called the United Kingdom.
And
now the reason why I bring this out is because when civilization first started, we made kings all over the world. And then the kings fought and they killed one another. And the king said, wait a second, let's become communists. They didn't use that word. They just said, let's get together so we don't kill each other. We can control the economic system if we unite. And that's how you got the United Kingdom. And then when civilization continued on, they needed, as you mentioned earlier, they needed to be able to control time. So a lot of countries said, well, let's base it on when the sun comes up in my part of the world. And then Great Britain was so strong, or the United Kingdom, they said, well, no, we're going to use England. And
as the center of the time.
Which is Greenwich, England. And that's called Greenwich Mean Time. So everything is based on the United Kingdoms, the people who ran.
You've gone right into what I researched yesterday.
I didn't even know what you researched.
Out of Buckminster Fuller's.
So, and this is stuff, I didn't know what we swear, I didn't know what she researched.
They never met each other before.
Well, we met, but we didn't discuss the program.
Right. But so let me just read this quote.
Go ahead.
But I'm going to go backward. But this is Buckminster Fuller talking. We brought him into the conversation. He must have been listening. I don't know what. Anyway, here we go. 1805. 200 years after the founding of the East India Company, that the British won the Battle of Trafalgar, giving them dominance of all the world's lines of supply. That term lines of supply is really important, and I can read some other quotes from Buckminster Fuller about that, but I'm just going to read this whole thing because it speaks to what Jeff was just talking to. It gave them dominance over all the world's lines of supply. They now controlled the seas of the world. It was said by world people, and those were the pirates, that the British Empire became the first empire in history upon which, quote, the sun never set.
Right.
The sun never set. In other words, they were everywhere, so there was always daylight, you know. In order to get their gold off the sea and out of reach of other pirates, the British made deals with the sovereigns of all the countries around the world with whom they traded, by which it was agreed from then on to keep annual accounts of their intertrading, and at the end of the year to move the gold from the debtors' bank in London to the creditors' bank in London to balance the accounts. In this way, they kept the gold off the oceans and immune to the sea pirates' raiding. This brought about what is now called the balance of trade. Isn't that wonderful?
Now that's the pirates. Now the pirates, what he's talking about in controlling the economy is what you're calling today the 1%ers, Dennis.
Oh yeah, and so this actually makes, you know, everything that we're living in now, you know, it's not magical, it's not inevitable, it's not something that developed because there was some profound reasoning behind it. What it was, and I'm going to take you now, and this is what I'm learning from Buckminster Fuller. I mean, he's teaching me from the grave, so to speak. It started because people learned how to control the lines of supply. The lines of supply can be the lines of survival goods, goods that are necessary for survival, or they can be the lines of supply of goods that are luxuries that you have to have.
Luxury things you want because you want them. But lines of supply, what you need is like food, water, and shelter, and education.
Right, exactly.
Those are things you need.
But the point that I'm going to make too about the lines of supply is not just what needs to be supplied for people to survive, for life to survive, but what individuals were doing back in the day in order to have power and control over the most valuable commodities that could be sold in the marketplace. And of course, it started out, with the biggest guy maybe in the farming community being made the leader because he was tall, and everybody was sort of looking up at him and saying, well, you can probably knock me out. So
The alpha
I think I'll be your buddy,
male,
and you know, you can kind of make sure, because you can see farther than anyone else too. If danger's coming, you know, you kind of keep us all.
And he was also one of the guys who didn't want to do much.
But this kind of fell apart when other individuals figured out how to tame horses and ride them around, and you know, Genghis Khan and his buddies.
And make swords
and then they came in and they could clobber this big guy, and he didn't really have much of an advantage anymore because they were on horses and they were a lot taller than him. Okay, so then, you know, this is all on the land. Meanwhile, there were very interesting group of individuals, and time went by, and many hundreds of years, but finally, the building of what Buckminster Fuller calls the big-bellied ships became, you know, a real craft that was perfected, and they were observing, you know, the ribs of the whales that washed up on shore, and how this could make the buoyance and the container that could hold stuff, and so they were getting ideas, and they were thinking, and this was originating with the Phoenicians in Venice, and we call it Venice, and we call them Venetians now, but they were the original Phoenicians. They did create the best ships historically, and it is, you know, thought that they did, you know, went around the world with their ships ultimately. But they were able to get that advantage of the sea, the advantage of taking their ships full of goods and armies, going and besieging, you know, let's say Troy, and sitting there long enough to starve out the people in the city, because they could get lines of supply to come to them with ships, and no one could attack them because they were the first really good seaworthy ships. And so they controlled that technology. They took advantage of the advantages of that technology, and from that, now let me just read Mr. Fuller's.
Before you get to that, I want to go to "might is right." Have you ever heard that expression, Dennis?
Yeah, that probably started around now too.
Dennis, might is right. Did you ever hear that expression?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay, now might is right.
That was like with
might
the
is right
and
only after civilization started.
the knights.
Before civilization started, and I'm going to guess because I'm not sure about this.
That would be K-N-I-G-H-T is right. With its
might, M-I-G-H-T.
Right, no.
You're saying night is right.
Too.
But before we had civilization, before we had the knights in shining armor and the knights of the round table, before civilization, it wasn't might was right. It was civilization worked.
It was survival is right.
So, well, no, before that, to survive, you had to work within in cooperation with the society, not in competition.
Right.
Once we set up a society, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, which is not a lot of time in this world, we then went into competition. And once we did that, we had a problem. So I'm suggesting that that's when we started to get the economic system where it's hurting people. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, Susan will go back to.
Well, I'm just going to try to make some kind of transition from, you know, our initial title of the program, you know, to do with time, and that time is our life, and why at this point we are all being compelled to sell the time of our lives, most of it, and you know, to participation and activities and work that we may not have chosen to do if things were different. So why are things the way they are? And is there some inevitability about it? And I'm asserting that there is not, because here we've got, you know, the beginnings of all of this, and it's just people asserting their dominance over other groups. And here's what I mean. It's the beginning of all the money that we use now was because it became more convenient to carry money around than to be carrying the cattle and pigs and chickens
and bars of gold, so they made fiat currency out of them. But that was
but up until 1500, and this is Buckminster Fuller's words. Up until 1500 BC, all money was cattle, lambs, goats, or pigs. Live money. That was real life support wealth. Wealth you could actually eat, which is an interesting statement.
So it's 1500 BC?
1500
AC.
BC.
Oh, before Christ.
Yes.
Before the Common Era.
BCE.
So that would have been
Before Common Era.
4,500 years ago.
Right.
Steers were by
3,500 years
far
ago.
steers were by far the biggest food animal, and so they were the highest denomination of money. The Phoenicians carried their cattle with them for trading, so they had cattle in their boats, and that was really, really important. You know, the use of symbols, I don't know if you can see this, but of symbols that indicate the steer's horns, like the Vikings had helmets, and they.
Well, you got to get that a little closer.
And some of the first money was this.
Okay,
What is the book?
This is Critical Path by Buckminster Fuller.
Now let's see if you can put that right onto the camera now. Well, maybe get the camera.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get that a little closer.
Which one is that?
Yeah, that one to your left.
Oh, well, it's probably not going to be bright enough.
No, to your left, the other one.
Well, okay. Well.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Pass.
that form that
You can get this out of the library, by the way. You can get
horns. That was the first shape of money. Was that crescent, and the people would wear them around their wrists. You know, this kind of money. At first, the Phoenicians, and so graduating from carrying cattle along. This is quoting again from Fuller. Graduating from carrying cattle along for trading in 1500 BCE, the Phoenicians invented metal money. This switch to coinage occurred coincidentally at just about the same time as the great change over from city-state dominance to line of supply dominance. And that's what we just were talking about, that this strategic advantage of boats on the ocean, boats on the bays, boats, you know, on the rivers of the world was a huge leap for people who wanted to be the controllers, the great pirates.
The great pirates.
And,
the 1%ers, Dennis.
Yes, the 1%ers.
This is the dominance of the power structure group controlling most of world affairs, and this is still the Phoenicians, the shipbuilders, you know, from Venice, Italy. When the Phoenicians began trading with people of so many languages, they came in need of a means of recording the different world sounds made by people around the world. The Phoenicians invented phonetic spelling, Phoenician spelling. This is another leap, and you know, you got line of supply, you got invention of money, and you got the invention of phonetic spelling, and this was all for commercial purposes.
Now I want to go to a point, because we didn't have the 0 point in measurements until 500 or 600
800 years AD.
800 AD.
Right.
So you had no way of measuring anything. 3,500 years ago, you didn't have a 0. So we didn't know where you were. So everything in the economic world, all including the Bible, had no start point. So you had no accurate way of measuring anything.
Well, that's why this dominance was so prevalent.
Right,
so
because it was so easy it was so subjective that How much is your cow worth? You know,
this is still the premise of our economic system now.
Today.
You know, we have no 0 point in our economic system. We have no base from which to measure anything, or you know, just physically measure it so that everybody is in agreement. You know, that this should go. Right.
How much are you worth?
Right.
How much taxes should I pay?
Right.
What is minimum wage? You can't answer that question. Now, Brian was going to say something because he got
a couple of points. There was, I'm going to call it concept of zero. There just was no symbol, and they leave spaces for special characters. But zero is a number. It was not actually incorporated into Western mathematics until about 1500. Descartes, for example.
Yes.
No, it was 800, I thought, 880.
Well, 800 was the invention in Arabia, and about 1500 it came to Europe.
Yeah, it went from India. Actually, it's a Hindu symbol, I believe.
Either way.
Well, yeah, some
Whatever,
people say it was
Arabs,
that too, right?
But it didn't become operational as a symbol.
It's been in the process for thousands of years.
But the point I'm trying to make is without a start point of zero, like if I give you a ruler and you don't know where the end of the ruler is, you can't measure how far it is. You need to know where the start point is for everything we do. Otherwise, the measurement is totally subjective.
Right. And
that's the point I'm trying to make.
Very important point. But before we were struggling with that, the Phoenicians were already, you know, highly motivated and intelligent enough to figure out how they could maintain control of their lines of supply dominance and their advantage by actually changing the way that we write and understand language. And that's what this change here, this phonetic spelling, it was an economic necessity to maintain their superiority. And they invented this phonetic spelling. And here's the very interesting thing. I mean, I find it interesting. Phonetic spelling pronounced each successive sound separately, and invented letter symbols for each sound. This is, I'm quoting from Buckminster Fuller again. So we know how that is. Each letter in the alphabet has a sound. We're still using it. It was a big change from ideographs to the Phoenicians' phonetic spelling. Before that, there were pictorial symbols that people understood for whole concepts.
Pictures.
Yeah, they were oftentimes very stylized pictures at this point. But still, people understood, you know, because they'd been using them so long, that they represented a full concept, not just a sound, a full concept. You know, like a pictograph, whatever it may be. It may represent the whole idea of that man is sitting there resting, or something like that. But let me go on.
Good.
It was a big change from ideographs, quote, to the Phoenicians' phonetic spelling, where in each letter a single sound having no meaning in itself, and whereby it took several sounds to make a whole word, and many such words to make sense, i.e. a sentence. Humanity was split into a babel of individually meaningless sounds while losing the concept of symbols of whole ideas, powerful generalizations that have been evolving over, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
Now were put aside, you know, to this, you know, people had to learn a new language, just like we're learning computer language now. Every time something leaps like that, there's a lot of struggle amongst the population, not saying that eventually that might be in some ways more useful or whatever. Oftentimes, when we create something that becomes, you know, a leap and does create more potential in the future, it has beginnings that are, you know, really kind of sloppy and kind of weird and kind of self-serving, but, you know, what the heck. But anyway, here we go. Humanity, you had to become, and this is quoting Buckminster Fuller, you had to become an expert to understand the phonetic letter code. the spelling of words excluded a great many people from communicating. And I thought to myself when I read that, so that's my problem, because I can't spell or
you can't communicate.
And so anyway, I've sort of overcome that, especially with the help of the internet. A great many people from communicating, people who had been doing so successfully with ideographs. You know, they had been proficient in another way of expressing language on paper.
Well, I want to, it's interesting when you see someone like an outer space movie and we land on a planet and then we try to communicate. So they take a stick and they draw on the sand a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they did it back then. Because it was,
but that's not an inferior method.
No, it works fine.
It actually.
If you were hungry, you pointed to your mouth. I want to eat something, and people understood what you meant. Yeah. I want to drink something, so you'd say, I want to drink, so people understood that.
But another aspect of that is that it's a complete idea. Right. It's a powerful, as what Buckminster Fuller, a powerful generalization. And we're losing that, which is the powerful generalization and immediately communicated by a symbol. And a lot of that is now, you know, pretty much being held in some people's ability to continue to use the arts or whatever. But
back, for example, you look at your computer, you see little symbols.
Yes, and you can take it to that.
Forward.
Mm-hmm.
When you drive on the
Becoming
highway,
even
you see
more
pictures of a man
symbolic
crossing the street.
Yeah.
Men's room, woman's room.
Right.
So ideographs, pictures, pictograms,
yeah, right.
It's a mode of communication, a valid, useful.
And by the way,
I mean, you still have those funny little faces on a computer. You're happy, you're sad.
I want to bring another point out that the better we communicate, the more we save time. We spent hours on this program to try to communicate a concept that all humanity has to have their basic needs met. It's taking so long to get this into the vocabulary because we're not explaining it properly.
Well, we'll know that it's happening when we hear it echoing back to us, and yes, there's a wasp in here. And we have to
I will get
deal with the wasp. But no, that we're fine. He's not going to. He likes the window. See, we won't probably live long enough to hear it echo back to us.
But we'll hope.
But you never know. But it'll echo back in the way that our times can make use of it. And as you see, we keep inventing new ways to communicate, and these are good things, as long as we don't leave behind everything that we already know, you know, to worship the golden cow, you know.
But that's what we're doing again. We're worshiping the golden cow. We're going back to subjective concepts like different belief systems, like we believe in that maybe an outer spaceship happened, or we get lost in the cul-de-sac of the conspiracy theories. So we're not focusing on what the 1%ers or the kings or the pirates are doing to us. And that's the problem. We have to, and the way the pirates and the 1%ers are controlling us is through these manipulative things like the cul-de-sacs of the World Trade Center, the Kennedy assassination, to keep us thinking about something that has totally esoteric or outer space or the Anunnaki, and we're not focusing on the problem at hand, so they're still controlling us through the economic system.
So the diversions.
The diversions.
Right, but the thing is that with this huge burgeoning of information that we can access through the internet, which is it's an information wave, tidal wave that we're all processing in our own way, and I think that with that comes a lot of difficulty in assessing. People have difficulty in assessing what's real, what's true, what's this and what's that, and I think that maybe you know, just like the lack of information can create situations where people start to you know, have like conspiratorial thoughts and things like that because they just don't have enough information too much information can create the same kind
Cul-de-sac,
of difficulty because people can't process that much that quickly.
We spent the entire
several
day
generations
talking to a very, very smart guy yesterday, trying to explain to him, and his belief system is what's going on now, our economic system. And he couldn't get, and he did get there eventually, he understood, but it's so hard to wrap your mind around that there's something wrong with our economic system. It's so hard to wrap your mind around that we are killing people every day in this part of our world because of our economics. And Dennis, you don't want to kill anybody. He said, no, I'm not killing anybody, but we really are. And once we realize that, we say, well, we don't want to. How do we change it? And that's where the HREM, or the Human Renewable Energy Measure, comes in. So we can give everybody basic needs met. Nobody dies because of the economic system, and we stop dropping drones on people to take their natural resources.
We don't want to throw away economics like we have. We got to look at the symptoms. I mean, here we are. We can go up into space and be in. Let's pretend we're up there in the shuttle and looking down, and there's
we are in the shuttle.
There's the Staten Island dump site. You know, the first thing that you can really pick out
from the moon, from our supply, from the sun, which we could go there, or the moon, which is our supply ship to keep our gravity in space.
But I'm just trying to take us to the actual thing that we're doing. We're creating dumps of disposable items that can be seen from space as the most prominent, and it's more prominent than Mount Everest now. So you know. Which I don't know why I'm laughing, but anyway, I mean, what we're creating is a dump world, and is that what we want? Is that going to be our human legacy on Earth? You know, before
we die.
Nature gets rid of us altogether.
There's another song that is a seafaring song, and I'm sorry I forgot the name of the writer of that song. And they're asking an old captain to teach them what they know before can you teach us what you know before you go? Meaning he was going to die soon, and they didn't have the knowledge that they needed. And the only knowledge could be passed down through this old timer. And they asked him, can you teach us what you know before you go? I think that's a Gordon Bach song. But it's a great piece of work, and you hear these great pieces of music, and it goes on. I mean, people have been trying to communicate, and the more you communicate and the better we can communicate, the more richer and our life will be in the time we have. That's the point of our communications. We want to try to get the communications good enough that no one takes advantage of another human being, and they have a good quality of life around the world. I don't think that's a bad goal to set. And I may be wrong about that. Maybe it's a terrible goal to set. I'm sure if you're a 1%er, you think that this is a terrible, terrible thing. But I don't think it's going to hurt the 1%ers one bit. There's always going to be people wanting to have more ambition, work harder than someone else, and get more stuff. And there's always going to be people who are going to follow that person who wants their stuff. And there are always going to be people who just enjoy life and nature, and they want to go sailing, and they want to play music, and they want to just do things differently. And that's okay. Everybody in the world, all God's creatures have a place in the choir. That's another song by Bill Staines. So these are things. So go ahead. We only have about 5 minutes left before we
had another, maybe unrelated to what you just said, but continuing with my tirade about litter. But anyway,
before you change subject, can
go ahead.
Mr. Fuller, Bucky Fuller.
Yeah.
I encourage people out there to read up about him. He has many books. There's the Buckminster Fuller Institute. Google Buckminster Fuller and follow the links. You'll be surprised and amazed. He's really quite an amazing person.
And a good book to start with is The Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, because it kind of summarizes most of his concepts.
There was no book tape about that. We're going to try to put a book tape out about that. In other words, you can listen to it.
And it's his shortest.
It's only 51 pages. You can get it online on a PDF, but if you could possibly, we're working on a lot of projects here, and unfortunately, we're just a small group of people trying to get all this information out. The encyclical by the Pope is very important. Levi Steyer is working on that from Exceptional Solutions. He's volunteering to do that. We've had volunteers reading it. We really are trying.
I'm working on software.
And he's working on. We're trying to get all this to come out, so everybody, and most people are the volunteers for this. We have to pay, of course, for the bandwidth and the different programs, and we try to give, we try to pay up for people for the free software. But we do this out of our pockets, so we don't want anyone
to. Thank you very much for all that great free software.
And I want to thank the people who are doing the software. And as soon as if we can ever get some money in, we're definitely going to share it. We don't want to.
These are
we don't want you to waste
really
your lifetime, because your lifetime. And I know you enjoy working on doing the software and stuff and making this stuff, but it's great that you did it, and you need to have a good quality of life and do it. But that's the stuff we're talking about.
That's also interesting, because there are a lot of people that work on software, as you say, programming for the internet, and don't charge for it, because they understand that there are things that shouldn't be monetized, and this is an understanding that should be more prevalent and spread out, because there are so many things that are essential to everyone that should not be monetized. And of course, we assert the basic needs, food, shelter, and education, should not be monetized, because they are actual survival necessities. And humans have a right to life. They have a right to their time.
And people build on other human beings' thoughts over thousands of years or millions of years. So what I'm saying is that no one really has the right to patent an idea, because their ideas came from other
or the right to buy people's lives.
Right, or control them. People need individual control over their own lives. This is just some of the things we're talking about, and that's what the HRM does. It gives you the ability to control your own life, and there's individual rights and there's collectivism. I believe in individual rights, but it must work within the collective groups, because no individual can stand alone. You're using other human beings' individual thoughts to create your lifestyle. So therefore, as an individual, you're going to have other thoughts that you're going to build on other people's thoughts.
Whether we like it or not, we're all in a collective effort.
Right.
And there's no way, to get around it. We've all contributed in our ways. Small, big, whatever you want to say, and I wouldn't even compute that way. I think that very few of us understand, any more than we understand nature and what it's doing, what the contributions of every person who's born are, and how that interacts with everything else.
I want to thank you.
Are we leaving?
Yes, I want to thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
We successfully wasted another hour of our life.
And my watch is 5 minutes slow.
And hopefully that you, Dennis, thank you. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, Brian.
See you next time.
Susan, and thank you all for listening.
Close the factory. You try to stretch your paycheck, but it's never quite enough. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.